Big tattoos.
Big tattoos.
Next time you gotta stop.
Yeah.
Alright, I'll take a chance and.
Stop for a
Complaint later.
Oh my god, that's
No,
funny.
you think we should? Okay. Good evening. Good evening. I had a cold 2 weeks ago and I've just got this thing I can't seem to kick, so hopefully I can get through this. I've got one, yeah.
Use some Flonase.
What's that?
Flonase.
It's just every once in a while, it's just this little tickle and I start coughing and it's really annoying, so excuse in advance. Mary Beth at our last meeting, she's trying to get so many people who could really probably do introductions again. I'm gonna say, Mary Beth, what a great idea. Let's quickly do introductions. We have a fair bit in the way of updates and announcements. So if we could just maybe quickly go around and just say, hey, who we are and what we're up to. Brian Banton, chair of the committee, school teacher in Brunswick, and father of 2 kids who like to ride their bikes around Topsham.
Mary Beth Nicholas, retired, like to ride my bike when my knees don't hurt.
Ben Watley Farm in Topsham, father of a couple kids on balance bikes,
Oh, nice.
2 and 4.
Nice.
Mark Hagan, Chief of Police, I'm the town's point of contact for the committee.
I'm Lori Williamson. I'm brand new. I'm kind of on sabbatical from teaching for a year to finish up a degree program, and then maybe I'll be at it again.
Nadia Rayner. I live in Topsham, and I have a local business, and I ride my bike. I really like bikes.
Really likes bikes.
I rode my bike across the country. Yeah.
Really likes bikes.
Yeah.
At a bike themed wedding.
Yeah.
Really likes bikes.
Yeah. Recently married. No kids.
Fun.
Yeah.
We're neighbors
We're like,
and friends.
yeah. I'm
Yes.
8 Hansen. She's 8 Williams. We're like
Yes.
right. Yeah.
Right next to each other.
Yeah.
I'm Carolyn Ranton. I'm the secretary of the committee through this summer, and then I will be moving across the country on my bicycle. I'm a pediatrician in Brunswick, and I love to encourage all kids I come in contact with to run, bike, walk, scooter, all the things. So their safety is really important to me.
With a helmet.
Oh,
With
yeah.
the helmet. Always with the helmet. It's hard to refrain from just like telling people when I'm like out on my own running or biking to like put a helmet on. But I feel like most people don't respond well to that. So
Totally. I'm Sarah Turner. I'm a consultant with Healing Board, planner, GIS mapper.
My name is Vanessa Farr. I'm a consultant with Healing Board. I taught my son to steal traffic cones to do tactical urbanism. So,
My
name is Jim Tassie. I'm a sub-consultant to Healing Board, primarily on board to help review and identify locations and treatments that might be done in our pilot capacity, and also to kibitz as needed on the general plan.
Mike Gladby, retired, but a board selecting from River Bureau Board again. To be a consultant in the.
My name is Ann Callahan. I'm on the select board. I have 1 son, 2 grandchildren, and 2 great-grandchildren.
Oh, those
I'm Jeff Emerson, the assistant town manager, and tonight your AV not so specialist.
And Aaron is here as well. Hi, Aaron.
Hey, yeah, joined remotely because it was too nice to stop playing outside. Got a little one, went to the pump track for the first time this weekend, all about bikes for him and commuting myself.
Nice.
We're doing introductions.
So we're just.
He slipped in.
Introductions, yeah.
Yeah.
Brief introduction.
Back off.
All right, excellent. Thank you, everybody. Can we look at minutes from the last meeting? Which was what, the 13th of April, I believe. Someone like to make a motion regarding the minutes?
Motion to approve the minutes.
Is there a second? Mary Beth, the second the motion. Any discussion? Actually, I think I caught a small thing. I had struck Lori from from, like, it looked like she's absent, but I think she was not absent, so
Thought I undid that.
maybe you did.
Oh,
It's possible.
Definitely
That was the only little bit of feedback I had.
Sounds like an absent-minded mistake.
It was an absent-minded mistake. Already on. Any other feedback regarding the minutes? All in favor of approving minutes with some minor changes? Any opposed? Thanks so much. Updates and announcements. I'm gonna ask folks again, I really want to get to the meat of this, which is the meat of our meeting, which is gonna be talking about the on-road stuff. So I'm gonna ask folks to be fairly brief. I know there are several different things going on. The first thing I'm gonna mention, most folks I think are aware, Dennis Cox is retiring like this week, right? Thursday. There's a congratulations, thank you, Dennis, for all your help. Card going around if you want to sign it, Chief or ATM. Could you get this to Dennis once? Okay. Excellent. Also, last meeting there was a question regarding the Merry Meeting Trail Advisory Committee, I believe it's called, or Board of Supervisors or something. I reached out to the town manager. According to the town manager, there are no openings on the Board of Supervisors right now, but he assured me he will let me know if they come up. I think that was the two things I had. But actually, town meeting is the last thing I wanted to mention. 2 weeks from today, we have a meeting on the 11th. Town meeting is that week, Wednesday, the 13th. So I brought a couple documents that I just left out so people are aware. The draft warrant that all the things we're going to be voting on, along with the what's it called, the budget thing, the budget document. Okay, I think that was it for me, Mayor Beth.
So, as you'll recall, I'm the BCM liaison. And there's so much stuff going on right now, so I'm not even I'm just gonna hit real briefly the highlights. And then I have it all listed in a doc that I'll give to Carolyn to put in minutes, so with links and everything. But big deal, League of American Bicyclists Action Center portal to weigh in to our senators and congresspeople on the action to support the Sarah D. Bing blah blah active transportation act. They're talking about like removing the bike lanes in DC. And just generally doing things like no bicycle infrastructure for the next 5 years, according to the Secretary of Transportation. Lots of stuff like this. So this act is to try and keep the administration from removing what bicycle infrastructure exists today in DC. And the concern is they start doing it in DC, it could happen all the time. Other than that, it's May is Bike Month, so there's lots of activities like ride your bike to work and ride your bike to school and ride your bike everywhere. Also, May 2nd is Saturday, the Brunswick to Bath to West Bath, or other way around. The A2K trail, the public meeting is Saturday. So it's in Brunswick, the link to that will be here.
At the LLB.
It's at the LLB.
Learning room or something at the Midcoast Hospital.
At the Midcoast
Campus.
SMC.
Oh, that makes more sense.
Okay, you want to just
The Ride of Silence is the 20th. There's one in Portland, one in Saco, one in Lewiston. If we've never done one, I strongly encourage. It's really a pretty cool event. And then there's the Intro to Mountain Biking at Topsham at the end of May 24th. But the flow and the tech skills sessions. So all these links will be in either the minute or a separate attachment, but lots going on and lots of fun things. So that's having a spring bike party.
Matt, did you have anything to add to that?
So only we hit all the important pieces, except so it's a virtual public presentation meeting as well, open to comments. For the, Andrew Scoggins kind of back, and it is this Saturday. Thanks for getting the location correct. Yeah, one previous one.
So this is connecting Androscoggin Bike Path in Brunswick to Bath one way or another. So they're looking at different routes, is my understanding.
Yeah, so I think it was, so they built the existing one along the river there back in '98, I think. And there's been a lot of restarted shelved talk about it since then. So this is to basically take another look at alternatives now. This is the first step, study plans. There's three, not to say that there's three they're looking at, I think, Old Bath Road, and Route 1, maybe or something like that. The center of the north and south.
So there's an in-person meeting this weekend.
Yep.
And then there's a virtual meeting that's ongoing, so we'll make sure that gets in the minutes.
It's just, it's on 29 Sewell Street, if you want to know what that is.
Yeah, I have it in the 49 Sewell Street. I don't that.
Okay. Thank you, Mary Beth. Thank you, Matt. The only other thing that I'm aware of, the 16th, right? Is the bike rodeo in Brunswick. Sarah mentioned that at our last meeting. I know Sarah's planning to be there. I think, Erin, were you planning to go as well?
I'll have to double check. I think there's also a community baby shower I'm supposed to be staffing, so I'll look and get back to y'all.
Okay.
I was gonna send her a note that I'm planning.
Oh, awesome. Okay, I was gonna encourage someone who doesn't have little kids to maybe go as well, just because I know Sarah and Erin are.
We can laugh at Erin.
Multitasking.
I'm going with both.
All day long, Mary Beth,
Awesome.
all day
So I
long.
would just,
I do that.
that's the 16th in Brunswick. I would just encourage folks to reach out to Sarah if you're interested or able to go to that. I think that's it for updates and just announcements. Do anyone have anything additional?
Did you want to make a note of the bridge?
Oh, thank you. The Canyons Bridge thing, that's right. We were talking about that at our last meeting, so we heard that there's funding in the pipeline for the replacement of the Canyons Road Bridge down by Head of Tide Park. If you're familiar with that spot, there is a parking lot on one side of the bridge and a trailhead on the other side of the bridge. Good luck getting from one to the other. There's like no space. So that bridge is in the pipeline to be replaced with some sort of something for pedestrians. So you're not taking your life in your hands.
Mark Walpole was suggesting that we at least request that there be a sidewalk on at least one side of that bridge. And he also said that he's spoken to Susan Collins about this already, and that there was the person who's going to be in charge of that project has not been named yet.
Okay, so maybe we should draft a letter saying, hey, we really want a sidewalk.
I think it'll come from the town.
Great. Is that like in the works? We have to do something.
Well, we can't do it until a project manager has been assigned to that bridge.
Okay.
That's when we do it.
It's on the Pike Road.
Thank you for that reminder, Anna. Anything else in terms of updates and announcements? Okie dokie, folks. I'm gonna go ahead and turn it over to our wonderful consultants. Thank you.
Thank you. So we're doing a check-in today. We are like very deep in the work. So this is all work in progress. I want to make sure tonight it feels a little informal in that we just spent 3 hours driving around, me in the back seat, I'm a little queasy still, but driving around all of your streets. I'm the smaller one, so I get to sit in the back. But Jim did a great job of doing the speed limit, although a few places we decided we were going to test.
Except apparently she got queasy.
But we did, there were some segments where we just sort of kind of turned off, or he did what is the speed, and I'm going to go what it feels like without really breaking any rules. But But then there was certainly some backseat driving from me, which was, you're going too fast. I don't like this.
But he was going to speed limit.
But he was going the speed
I
limit.
at no point exceeded the speed limit anywhere, and generally drove 2 to 3 miles per hour under it.
There we go. There we go.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But there were a number of locations where I was like, you're going too fast. It feels, and he's like, I'm going the speed limit. So what we would like to do is pull up the work in progress, which is the spreadsheet of the spreadsheet augmented, and this really is not meant to be the consumable that you're going to put in your plan. It's doing it like an iteration of this in a way that is more friendly to read is going to be what's in the plan. Can you make it as big as possible?
That's as big as I can make it. I don't know.
That's as big as it can go. What if you jack up the font?
Yeah, I can make the font size larger.
Across.
Can you do the, just where the, can you do that thing and make it bigger?
Oh, yeah, good idea.
Perfect.
And we'll move from sort of left to right. So this feels like right now the messy sausage making of like work in progress. We had what we're building out is at this point prioritized by corridor or thematically grouped by corridor. If this seems to be working, if there's a need to do also neighborhood identification for things that don't quite fit. The idea is that by assigning a project to a corridor, we can then kind of have the plan lay out, here are projects related to Main Street. Here are projects related to, Forsyth. Here's Middlesex. And so that it is a little bit cleaner and easier to understand the whole palette of things that you might do in a corridor. It's not to say that one corridor yet is going to be prioritized over another. This is just the sorting. So how do we sort what will probably be, could be 100 different projects. So right now we're at about 30, and Sarah and Jim will talk about the data that we've been looking at and continuing to look at. So if you want to move across, Sarah, and so we talked a bit about this at the last meeting, which is the beginnings of this scoring criteria. We are not yet assigning weights to each of these categories. We're just not there yet. So right now, survey response, we do have survey response. It's not it's not quantitative. So for me, it feels like they are data points and they are important. They do seem to align with historical work, but we didn't get 1,000 responses. So survey response as scoring criteria may be weighted eventually lighter than some of these other things like injury, any mode, or severity of crash. So not every location as we look at has speed data. So because not every location will have that, when we go to scoring criteria, there'll have to be a way of sort of neutralizing the places that don't have a scoring criteria or don't have speed data. You had a question?
Oh, I thought you were going to say survey response.
No, don't have speed data. Yeah. So
92%, that means 92% of the speed date, people were over the speed limit.
Yeah, and the data that was collected last fall, that's right.
How big was the sample?
It was multiple weeks.
The base?
Yeah, or at least a week.
That's
A
great.
continuous monitoring over the course of the week.
But we don't know how many.
He has
92%.
He has a number of cars.
Yeah. So obviously some of that is numerical and it's recorded data, and obviously personal security is a qualitative feeling. So you suggested also if it's on a safe route to school, you want to keep going over? So we've added that one. And then this is some of the information that might go into decision making. It's informational. It's how big, what's the volume of traffic on the road, what's the posted speed, because that's going to obviously, like, that balances out with the recorded speed if there is one. Some of the information that is being qualitatively offered in the survey. And then do you want to keep going? And then this is starting to like identify who will be affected by a change here and is it suitable for a demonstration project. So the reminder I think that so when we had just a small sort of top of what was elevating quickly to the top based a lot on our sort of reading of your data without putting it through a system of ranking and prioritizing, that sort of at the top is just related to demo projects. And so just so we all know, it's not just about demo projects. I wanted to make sure we all are clear on that it's the whole palette of things, whether it's a demo project or it's a permanent installation, or it's a long-term fix. So the demonstration projects, some of the things that we do in a demonstration project are going to be the same as an intervention that we decide is a permanent part of the program of what we do as public works and maintenance. So that's the crosswalk paintings, that might be vertical delineators, or places where we're doing the installation of the posts to harden center lines. Like that just may be permanent, and we might start as a demonstration project, but then shift to permanency. So this is how we're trying to get all the information into one place to then be able to work up and respond to you with, here's a chunk of projects in this corridor. Here's another chunk of projects in this corridor. And here's a recommendation for the criteria to choose. That way, when we're not here, you will be able to put a project through and be able to score it yourselves. And you've got that lasting policy that is in place for when possibly a new project comes forward that might not be on this list. Because obviously data changes, right? Conditions change. Just because right now there may not be accidents or injuries in a place doesn't mean that won't happen tomorrow. So are there any questions about how this work is evolving so far?
I have one. Is this on a shared drive that we can be looking at it?
Yeah, I think that's,
you don't have just have you access?
I think, that would be.
This is in the Topsham shared.
Oh, it is?
Yep. I can.
Yeah, so we can share that link and you can start to look in here. Don't make edits to it. I mean, obviously we can do the history. Commenting is okay, drop a comment on something, but try not to do editing at this point yet.
Right, so
I'll send the link around. It's in that community resiliency grant implementation consultant work folder that we set up.
And so I think that is a good segue right now to having Jim talk through and make sure we do a level set on all of the potential treatments, because some of those treatments, like I said, could become part of an annual public works program. Some of them might be applied locally through a demonstration project that at some point we score and you all decide are going to be in your top list of demonstration projects. So do you want to pull up that deck too?
Yep.
Great.
Ready to go.
Perfect.
And by way of introduction, I'll just kind of jump on some of the points Vanessa was making. So we have greatly expanded the number of sites that we're looking at, and we're going to be talking about it tonight. We're still going through the process of assessing them as, suitable potential locations for a demonstration project. The initial run through, I looked a lot at the survey data because, that was actionable information that we got from your community. So I was looking at that, and as after last week's meeting, or the last meeting we had, we decided, okay, well, let's cast the net a little bit more broadly to try and find criteria that will help determine locations. That said, a lot of the locations that I presented, the last meeting we had do align very well with two critical criteria, in my opinion: crash data of all modes. So we could certainly narrow that down to just bike ped crash data, but also the location of the site on a known cycling route as determined by Strava. And do any of you guys who ride bikes a lot use Strava? Okay, and if those of you who are commuting, please use Strava, because the more people use it for short utilitarian trips, the more useful the data set becomes for, non-recreational purposes. But that said, there is good data that suggests that Strava data, as I think I said last time, aligns with places that people who don't use Strava still ride. So when I look at a Strava map, and maybe I'll begin by just throwing that up really quickly. So all I need to do is share here. Let's see if I've got permissions intact for that. Oh, look at that. Yeah, I love that. I'm going to show you this one first. Sweet. Okay, look, it works. Love it when it works. The right window on my screen. All right, so what this shows is the cycling Strava data for all of Topsham. And you can see the brighter lines correspond to locations where people ride bikes a lot. And so this begins to give us something to work with respect to identifying locations. Last time, we looked at areas. I showed you that animated graphic that shows where these locations overlap with crash locations, and in some cases we looked at survey data too. It would be interesting as we go on to get direct input from this committee. I mean, you guys are the cycling experts in your community. I feel that your input is extremely valuable in identifying problem locations or places that we might want to do more. So let me.
Can you go back to that map?
Okay. Yep.
So I'm going to keep grounding us in, this is not just about demonstrations that are temporary. So that map again is showing us and confirming that when we make the list of corridor segments, that we've got them all correct. So you can see these very obvious routes popping out. So I think tonight I'm going to continue making sure that we're all understanding of what the end products are we're going to give you from this work.
Yeah.
So it might be my eyesight, but it seems like, for example, the thicker, is it the thicker line is more heavily so?
The thicker and brighter, yeah.
Middlesex or Elm Street. It was like Elm Street's pretty thick. It looks like
Elm Street,
like Augusta Road, like Main Street is maybe not quite as thick.
Yeah.
And Route 196, which would make sense. That people will ride on it probably, but not
people do ride on it. I used to work for the Bicycle Coalition of Maine, and I used to lead groups of kids from the middle school down 196, and then we take them on a little trip. And 196 is hair raising with a bunch of 8th graders. Let me tell you. But yeah, so and the extrapolation factors are the problem with this. Like, so the big white fat line, what does that mean in terms of actual numbers of cyclists? And so Strava data in like the more built up areas, one Strava user corresponds to roughly 5 non-Strava users. And in the more rural areas, so like out here on Forside and on Middlesex Road, one Strava rider can represent as many as 25 to 50. So it's kind of, it's imprecise, but what it shows you is that people do ride here. And even though I can't give you an accurate count because I don't have the extrapolation factor that's based on a physical count of the number of cyclists that actually were there, it's important to know that that's where people ride. When we were doing our drive about today, we saw lots of people enjoying this beautiful day on their bikes on some of the routes that were identified by Strava. You can see that your little mountain bike network out by the transfer station gets quite a lot of use too, which is kind of cool. And so in terms of, you guys as a bike ped committee, people walk there as well, but people ride bikes there, and making good access to that location would probably be a very nice thing to consider.
Just a question.
So
Yeah.
can this data be used to tell us, like Strava will tell us where people are riding, but is there any way to back into where they would ride if it was safe?
No,
Okay.
that's where you come in.
That's all the human.
That- Well, and that's the big question, right? Because it's like, well, no one rides there. Do they not ride there because no one rides there? Or do they not ride there because it absolutely is
Like
terrifying?
196.
Yeah.
That's fine.
But you can see in 196, people ride on
People
because
ride on it.
they don't have a
They don't know.
great alternative in some
Yeah,
cases.
exactly.
Or, I mean, everyone
Minecraft
has,
connects.
and everyone has a different idea of what safe
Safe
means.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
which is kind of wild, but
Yeah.
like. I'm
So,
not riding bikes
before-
all summer, but it's
we
not-
can-
it's
we
not
can
the most dangerous sport
Go
on the
way
planet.
down into the rabbit hole of discussing Strava and what it represents, but there is a similar map for pedestrian data as well, which is useful to see how people circulate around your community on foot. But what I wanted to get to was, okay, these are some of the locations or some of the routes where you might want to do something. The question is, what would you want to do? And so I want to show a deck that I created that basically gives you a sort of menu of the various low-cost interventions that we can do, temporary interventions, to inform you guys, because, as I said, your input is hugely important to this process. And when you see how simple some of these things are, you might have more locations to consider than we're considering. And I think as I said, I think your input is hugely important.
So
because
while
of
Jim's
your
pulling that up on
role.
the list, the table that we're building out, there will be a spot to include some of these interventions. And again, they might be temporary, they might be permanent. So we're gonna, the images, you've seen these before. We had these up at the workshop. So some of this may not be new material for some of you, but it might be new material for some who didn't attend the workshop. And to reiterate what Jim is saying, that there will be places in the community where we're gonna start to pair up the treatment with the point, whether it came from survey or it's a speed issue or whatever that thing is. And so that will become that menu.
Okay,
Can I ask a couple questions before we get into this part of it?
sure.
So the big idea with the demonstration project is we're testing things. And we want to determine if X treatment has an impact on on what's going on the street.
That's right. Mostly driver behavior.
So if we were to look at like Elm Street, for example.
Yep.
You want to limit the number of things you're changing at once to figure out if one thing works or another thing works? Or
That's a different question. So let's also tease out the trying the thing out. You might try the thing out because that is the technique you will use year after year after year. And you've agreed that it works. Or you might decide that that technique works and it sets you up for a permanent reconfiguration. So I want to make sure there's a distinction here that, striping a curb extension and putting bollards might be the test, right? You might test it for 1, 2, 3 years. You may do that for 5 or 8 years until you're ready to do a new infrastructure project, until you have money to take up the curb and reset it and place it in. So just want to make sure that as we are talking about quick build, that it's about an intervention that might be short as a test to prove something. It might be a temporary, more permanent installation because you're waiting to get funding to make a final permanent change. Okay.
Right, and I think that's perfectly put, right? Some projects are, well, this is inexpensive, it seems to be effective. Let's keep doing it on a temporary basis until we get the cash to go big.
And I think
which is the process they've used in New York City, Memphis, across the country, because it's a lot better to test out the design before you spend $1 million or whatever on really ripping up an intersection and changing it. This gives you an opportunity to tweak the design, to try some stuff out. And I'll show you some images of some ambitious projects that we did that are testing exactly that. So
then there's one other part to your question, which is, do you do one thing or can you do like 5 things in a row?
Mhm.
And I think it's perfectly valid to do 5 things because depending on what that treatment might be, there may need to be other treatments leading up to the treatment. So this might be a crossing and it might be, let's just call it a table. We're gonna do a table, but before we get there, we need to be doing we might be doing gateway treatments before you get to that actual thing. So they're gonna go as a suite of things together. Or it may be one thing.
Yeah, and you would try to, as much as possible, you would try to assess the impact of those elements discreetly, unless it was like, as Vanessa described, kind of a suite of things where you had like freestanding gateways that came up to an intersection that had a crosswalk. So you want to see, well, can we get a reduction in speeds at that location? And then you might have a qualitative assessment that's like, well, did people feel it was a safer, more pleasant crossing experience? So, you can get really hard empirical data based on, the chief's black cat to check speeds and whether you've affected reductions. But then you can also ask the people, how did this make you feel? And really, I think that's the gold standard, where you're combining objective information with, visceral response. So
that theoretically turns up in the number of people that are actually going out and using it. Like that's the response.
Well, and that could be another metric. So you can actually do counts, and there are ways that you can, you guys want to go sit in the street on a lawn chair and do some counts. I mean, we used to do that in the Portland area. We had 20 locations we would count by hand annually. It actually led to some more permanent counter technology, thank God, but it's possible. So in a nutshell, the quick build demonstration projects are just roadway changes that are implemented rapidly using temporary highway grade materials, flex post signs, paint, speed bumps, humps. You'll sometimes see like references to tactical urbanism, which is the term to art that DOT hates calling it tactical urbanism because it sounds like militant guerrilla activity, and it's not. It's transportation planning.
It used to be 15 years ago.
But the projects that I design all use MUTCD approved things that towns go out and buy and put down anyway. So we're not using any painted spare tires. We're not using hay bales, although I have
no toilet plungers.
No toilet plungers. No pumpkins.
I mean,
even though they are nature's traffic cone. So the advantages of demonstration projects is that you can test designs that try to improve safety for all use, not just people walking, biking, people driving too, in many cases. And the advantages are it's fast, inexpensive, and it's adjustable. And what you're looking at here is a hardened median that we did on Washington Avenue in Portland last summer. I wish I could make that bigger. Maybe I can. If I do
that. Presentation mode.
Presentation.
Yeah, let me try that.
Bottom right.
Slideshow.
Bottom right. Start. There we go. Thank you. We're going to continue to share. Yes. All right. Oh, look at that. My arrows work now. So the suite of demonstration projects I've used most commonly in Maine include curb extensions, which we'll run through all these, crosswalk gateways, very popular, visual pedestrian refuges, found a few locations for that as we were driving around, freestanding gateways, visually separated shoulders, which are separated but not like crash proof. It's not a protected kind of separation. Yes.
He's going to go through each one of these.
Yeah. Let me just.
A lot at one time.
If you keep asking me questions, we'll never get through.
Wait, can I ask one other question?
Oh, sure.
Will you provide this to us, or do I need to okay? Because I just don't want to.
I think Sarah's already got it. Yeah, it might be in that folder.
Great.
So speed tables, humps and bumps, which are all different things, hardened centerlines, medians, bikeways, and visually separated bikeways. All right, another question, comment?
So does everyone know what a hardened center line means?
No, I'll talk about that in a second.
All right, so all those technical terms are going to get explained.
Yeah, well, we're going to talk about all. These are just some of the typical materials. This is what a flex post looks like.
That's the white thing.
Yep.
That's called a flex post. You can hit it with a car and it's not going to break your car. Ideally, you wouldn't hit it with things. Doing your phone, your technology is doing something.
Why is she calling me? Like my sister-in-law.
So the white post you can hit with a car, it's not gonna damage the car.
Yes,
Yes.
although fire trucks don't like to straddle them because there's sensitive stuff under fire trucks. We have to think about that. So curb extension. So the curb extension, Vanessa was referring to this, where this is actually where you take the curb line and you draw it out further in the street. So if you're looking up here, upper left, okay, I can make that bigger. So the curb line is actually way back here. And what we did, this project in South Portland, where we just tried to tighten up this intersection a little bit to shorten the crosswalk and slow the turning speeds of vehicles going onto it. This one down the bottom here was an ambitious one we did at the intersection of Washington Ave and Presumpscot in Portland. Gets a ton of truck traffic, super busy. You can see, look, I mean, we reclaimed close to 25 feet of roadway, shortening that crosswalk substantially. And these elements here are mountable because a lot of truck traffic goes through here. And so we wanted to do something that the trucks could just roll over. Eventually, all of these flex posts were sacrificed for the cause and replaced. Again, that's why they're adjustable, they're tweakable. The flex posts were getting hit too often, so we got rid of them. It kept the cars out of there, but the trucks, if they needed to, cut that corner a little bit, usually they didn't, they just do. They could roll over it with no problem. And what you see here, upper right here, is also Portland. This is down by, I'm forgetting that.
Looks like the West End.
It is this. No, it's right at that big.
Back Bay, Deering or something.
It's Deering, is where it is. Yeah, but anyway, so that
Deering Center by that bakery.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's Big Sky.
Right next to Big Sky. That's exactly what that is. So that's a project that I did with the I want to say West, maybe it's the West End Neighborhood Association, but they wanted to do stuff that would calm traffic down there. So the curb extension is simply what it describes. It's taking the curb line and bringing it out further so that you narrow the street and you create more friction that tends to slow cars down. It can be also used to shorten crossings, as I've described, and as you can see in this Portland example and in this Presumpscot Portland example. And it slows the rate at which cars make and vehicles make a turn. So instead of cutting the corner and going fast, they have to make a slower, more deliberate set of turning movements. Very effective.
Before you move off that one, Jim, the red, that would be an example of something that they would repeat and do annually because that's a brand new road. So that they're not going to pull that curb out anytime soon and replace it. It's been reconstructed. They kind of missed it on doing a curb extension. So this is likely what we would call the temporary, more permanent fix.
Yeah, they've installed that, I think, like for the last 3 or 4 years since I've done it. This one on Washington Ave, though, this actually is testing an actual designed hardscaped curb line that's supposed to be built this summer. So watch out, Washington Ave's gonna have some snarls on it. But that's the idea, that they're bringing the curb line out that far, and this is was very much an experiment and a test.
There's a question.
So for the ones that are done annually, like that red one, would the idea be to remove those in the winter for plowing, or would you leave them?
So
just like
generally you pop them up. They go down with butyl adhesive, which just sticks to the road. They come up with a shovel pretty fast. That said, in the world we're living in, winter is getting shorter and warmer. There's a flex post. So when I used to work at BCM down on Diamond, I did an installation down there, and so we've got I haven't been down there lately, but there was a yellow flex post in the center of Diamond, right at the where the Bayside Trail crossed that lasted 3 winters. So if they don't get hit,
Still there.
they can hold up. But if a plow driver wants to take them out, it's like shaving. Just take them right off.
Well, and isn't part of that project that people parked there all the time and it was in front of the fire hydrant? Because there's not a lot of parking there.
People would stand there. That was a problem. And there was just people would come flying off of forest and just go onto that. So we actually did upstream of that. You might know there's a couple of curb extensions, and we choked that down even further because it was designed with an 11-foot lane with like 2-3 foot offset, so it's super wide, there's nothing to slow you down, so we choked that down. And that's what a lot of these projects are intended to do. They're intended to slow traffic down by creating friction and narrowing the road. Now, related to the curb extension and often used in conjunction with them are crosswalk gateways. And so what you see is what they are. Basically, you put a couple of elements on the white line on either side of the center line. And in this one here, we're using a what's called an R1-6 sign, which basically just says state law, which is that drivers yield to a pedestrian in a crosswalk. The law actually reads, any pedestrian showing intent to cross triggers a yield on the part of a driver. This is actually in front of BCM. This is the installation we did that takes you from the parking lot near Rising Tide over to Coffee by Design. Very popular crosswalk, and that continues to get installed. These are how we made safe landings in a place that otherwise a vehicle could encroach on. Maine DOT will not let you put in a crosswalk unless it goes from a place of safe landing to a place of safe landing. This project here was a really cool one that we did on Broadway in South Portland. And this is sort of I consider this a visually protected pedestrian refuge. I mean, a car could still get in there, but it does, create a little bit more conspicuity. And, we could have even put a third post in the middle here to kind of give a little bit more sense that, well, cars aren't supposed to go there and they probably won't. And that's using 2 speed bumps as an additional element. So, and that takes me to visual pedestrian refuges, which you see, that's the one we just talked about. Here's one that we did on Washington Avenue, which shows, again, just a way to kind of create a little bit more friction around a crosswalk. There's a number of places, as we were driving around, there's a big yellow traffic island painted on 201, right near Wilson Street, I think it was.
Yes, I was literally just gonna mention that.
Yes.
Was that there before? That
They
like
just painted that the other night.
They just painted it.
Yeah.
Was it like that
We
last year?
saw a lot of fresh yellow paint around.
I was gonna say, look, I
Yeah.
don't remember that being there last
That's in
year.
there.
But,
Right when you turn onto Wilson, like where that crosswalk is by the like the little forest sort of thing, where that crosswalk is, there's like a painting and we did a traffic island with like stripes to like make people more aware.
this one's more. This is one I did with Tom Nosal and John Mahoney for Build Maine in Lewiston.
Yeah.
But
I think that the point here is that like the permanent installation of that to green up and change the aesthetic of the street, that has a cost factor that's much different than a $30 flexible delineator.
Yeah.
So
right.
So sometimes one of the things that you might hear is that, well, this is ugly. I don't want it to look like this. So it's like being cognizant that depending on what you do for that intervention, it may sort of get a negative response, partly because I think it looks better than the other one, but that if the aesthetic isn't high enough, that you might get negative responses to something that might actually be working.
Well, yeah. Like this one, both of these, like the real solution here would be a curved median island and a curved median island, right? So one on this end, and then this would all be curved up, and that would make it look better. Maybe you could put some low kind of shrubberies in there, as we see here in this project in Lewiston. Yeah, so those are, but again, these are both like testing the creation of what could be a more permanent design. But in the interim, I mean, these everything you see here is low cost, like less than $2,000 installed, which from the transportation point of view is ridiculously low. These are freestanding gateways, which are a little similar to the crosswalk gateway, that you got like an element on the center line and elements on the edge. And this is actually a project that Vanessa and I worked on in North Yarmouth, where we created freestanding gateways on the approach to town to create some friction as they came into this village area. So here you have kind of a triple freestanding gateway. Here you have a freestanding gateway. This is in Mount Vernon, on some rural roads that come into the town. People are coming in hot, and they were like, what can we do to slow things down? DOT won't let us put down a speed table right now. What can we do instead? We did this. Lower left here, this is the approach to, well, you can see actually right here.
I'm sorry, Jim.
Yeah.
These things all had the desired effect.
They all had the desired
They
effect.
all
Well,
work.
this project in North Yarmouth, I swear I've been coasting on this one for a few years because we took a situation where 80% of drivers were exceeding posted speed,
Significantly.
flipped it over, 80% compliance. So that was that got DOT's attention, that got everyone's.
Well, also the process that we used is sort of set the pace for doing street demonstrations. So we did the collecting the data, we did the community forum, we did the test, we worked with the fire department, public works, and then we did more data, and then we did another community conversation. So because we were very deliberate with all of those steps, I think we had good success. But this is also the place where in town we had used these very large blue pots to put some vegetation in. And all we heard from people who didn't like it, they were anti the project, was like, oh, that Dixie Cup project. You know, so you do sometimes, you gotta watch your, like the things, the temporary materials you're gonna use, because you might get skewered for the Dixie Cups. But the data was undeniable, so it really, the criticisms didn't really matter.
Well, and I will say that anything you do will get hostile feedback, and you'll hear it, and you'll hear it, and your DPW director will hear it. The select board might hear it. Yep, I mean,
and that's why the data is really important.
But
data.
the thing you have to keep in mind is that a lot of the time people are objecting to it and complaining about it because it's having the desired effect. Like, negative feedback does not mean it is not working. It probably means the opposite. People are like, I can't drive as fast as I want to everywhere I want to anymore. I have to slow down because there's this stuff I have to deal with. It's like, good. Visually separated shoulders. So this is again using flex posts where you want to create a little bit more separation between the edge of the road or lane on the road. So upper left here, this is Bethel along a very primitive gravel path along North Road on the shoulder. People liked it, but Bethel chose not to reinstall it. So on the other hand, Casco, which is down here in the lower right, this is a project this was just done late in the season. You can see it's fall, and so we didn't space the delineators as tight as we would have were we doing this in the spring. But you can see the impression it makes. It really kind of brushes people off of that line further left. A lot of people walk on that stretch, and so there was a lot of interest.
So let's talk about the intent of those ones for a second. Like, those are places where you're probably never going to install a sidewalk. So, and they may be places where the rural nature of the travel is 35 miles an hour, maybe a little bit more. So the people are walking it, they are using it actively. It just doesn't support like a permanent separated facility necessarily. Maybe part of the Casco piece did, but North Road would never do, like, it wouldn't do that. Maybe with their reconstruction there might be a paved shoulder and then a tight, sort of like a two fog lines and a tight travel in the center. But the other thing about the slide, can you go back one of so this can also work in a residential neighborhood where there might be some on-street parking, and moving through a corridor segment, if there's speeding, there can be a way of creating sort of like a series of gates that you go through. And so my street, which is in Bethel, we have a school area, but a very wide street, and I'm starting to talk to people about putting those to create gates that periodically you have to drive through as you move through. So it's a great tool for the edges to slow things down, but it can also be used when the street is just too wide.
Yeah. mean, I'm doing a project up in the Bangor area where we're doing a whole series of freestanding gateways on a residential corridor that speeding is a concern on. And the road doesn't have much shoulder, too narrow to be much else.
Mallet Drive.
A Mallet Drive, we drove up.
Yeah, how was that?
That might be a possibility. So this is a speed table. Speed tables, there are speed tables, speed humps, and speed bumps. Speed tables are big and wide. This is a project we did on Route 1 in front of Thornton Academy in Saco. Hugely complicated, expensive project, but really successful. Steve Landry from the DOT highlighted this as his favorite demo project of the year last year. It made a real impact on drivers, slowed things down. A lot of people liked it. There's a couple of crossings, as you can see. It made that a lot better. You know, this is a possibility in some places, but these units are expensive up front, like in excess of $5,000, and then they're very labor intensive to put down.
But they're temporary, so if you try it and you borrow the speed table from the DOT, which you can, right?
And you have to bolt them down. They're very complicated to put down.
So then they make the case for a permanent installation.
Right.
Right.
That's what we're doing. So
There's a question over there.
Yeah.
So I think that I've heard some feedback from other venues, towns, whatever, that sometimes this can be challenging for emergency response. But what I've heard is that they can overcome is actually if you put sections down that large trucks like fire engines can straddle, but maybe smaller cars cannot.
Those are known as speed cushions.
Speed cushions. Okay.
Yep.
So that's
yep.
a big difference.
Yeah, well, it's very similar, but it's basically a speed table with just what you're describing, a couple of scuppers for a wide vehicle to track through.
So a fire engine can blow right through it, but a car is, well, not blow right. If you think about it, cars, maybe not so much. Yeah.
Yeah, cars they can, maybe they can get one wheel in it, but you know the other thing you can do is, and this wound up, they sent. Or the guy I was working with, he ordered one that was a little shorter than the DOT wanted. This is from point to point, I think it was 12 feet, and they wanted us to use like a 16-footer, at which point more of the wheels of a large vehicle are on it, so it goes up, it's got a flat section, and then it goes down, so the transition's not as abrupt. And you know, I mean, I used to drive an ambulance. It's like, you know, in busy areas, you're not supposed to go over 10 miles over the speed limit, really. And so, yeah, there are ways to work with emergency response to make sure they are comfortable with what you're doing in the road. This is
this one, oops,
yep.
correct. That's the one in front of Thornton Academy.
Yeah, I know. That was where Thornton Academy. Yep,
Yeah,
right.
and what slows people down, I don't think, is that speed table as much as all those cones and yellow.
Well, the cones were gone. The cones were gone. So at the end of the this is all just I took the pictures when I was doing insulation. So all of those cones went down, and it's kind of hard to see on this one, but if you look up ahead here, you can see there's a couple of flex posts. So down here on this side, you can't see it so well. I don't have other pictures of it, but we did do some freestanding gateways on the approach. Those told people something was coming. But the speed table, I mean, I got some video of people like
flying
just hitting it. It's like so hard. It's like they only do that once, and you know, I'm like, you know, if that's bothering you, you're exceeding the speed limit by too much, because you can hit this thing at 30 miles per hour and it wasn't a big deal. Speed humps are similar but a little bit bigger, and I think. This deck was used on another project, and I think someone edited it a little bit, and I didn't clean it up, so I apologize for that. But a speed hump, similar idea. It's just a wider speed bump. So whereas a speed bump might be only about 14 inches wide, 12 inches wide, a speed hump will be almost 36 inches wide. It'll bring speeds down to about 20 to 15 miles per hour. A speed bump is what you use in a parking lot when you really want to get people going super slow, or when you want to use them as mountable channelizers. So I've shown you this image from Washington Ave. This is some stuff. This is actually from a project. I think I have more images than this one in Lewiston, where we had, again, a place where cars were making turns and trucks might encroach on a two-way bike lane that we created. So we used them. This is an example of centerline hardening. So what this installation does is it carries that center line further out into the intersection, forcing cars to make, again, very deliberate turning movements around them, or they go over the bump. So big truck, I don't care, I'll go over the bump. But if someone in their, their BMW may choose to not go over the bump. And what that does is it makes for slower turning movements, safer turning movements, and especially in locations where there are crosswalks, very helpful in calming traffic generally. Let me, I'm gonna fly here a little bit because we're running to the end of time. Again, hardened center lines can also include, medians. Medians are just expansions of the center line essentially. And by putting flex posts down on them, you've made them less permeable. Cars don't drive across them as much. This location down in the bottom, we were actually closing off left turns from Washington Ave onto a road. It's a documented high crash location. And this is actually the turn. And this was very successful. It's like, I mean, what's wild is that by that went down in I think we finally got it down in late June, stayed up until November, and none of those got hit, or barely any got hit. I mean, so that was remarkably untouched. Bikeways, just what they sound like, so you're putting stripes on the edge of the road and stenciling them as bikeways, or bike lanes, one of the typical uses. This is a kind of a more elaborate version of a bikeway where you can visually separate it. So it kind of brings together that visually separated shoulder, but makes it a specific bike accommodation. So this one up here is actually a two-way facility that we created in Louisville last summer. Again, huge benefit in terms of calming traffic by taking up some space on a two-lane one-way street that was just a racetrack, and this created a lot more friction. I have the speed data on it. You can see the day of the installation, the speeds drop dramatically. It was really pretty cool to see that one. This is a project again in Lewiston, just putting some flex posts along the white stripe to enhance separation. Also Lewiston, where we had more of a buffer strip, and we put flex posts in the buffer. And I think that's it. So those are the kinds of things that I've done in Maine. And if you guys, having seen them, have if that gets your kind of creative juices flowing a little bit, like, oh boy, we should do something like that here or there or the other place, communicate with us and we'll put it in the hopper. And when we're getting closer to the moment of selecting where we're going to make designs, we'll get back to you with some ideas.
Sure, I don't see that in
Okay. I'll make sure it gets, I'll put it right in that quick build folder.
So we are running up on time here. I just want to ask, in terms of our next meeting, I don't know what you guys are thinking about in terms of our process for the next meeting. Would it be helpful for us to give you feedback about the things we just discussed, over the next week or something, so that it can be incorporated into our agenda for the next meeting? Or what are you thinking?
I would say sure. I mean, for demonstration projects, so my primary role here is this stuff. So if you've got ideas of locations that might work, send them to Sarah and we'll get them on a spreadsheet. We'll see how they align with the other locations that we've already got selected, because maybe you guys are going to kind of double down on some locations that have already been under consideration. But otherwise, we'll have a conversation on it. But your input as bike riders and active transportation users is hugely meaningful.
And drivers who find it challenging at some places to abide the speed limit.
As you did your drive around today, were there any places that were like, aha, this is definitely someplace?
Yes.
And you shared those with us?
No.
Because of your professional expertise in this area.
Well, I mean, we saw a lot of stuff, but like, so off the top of our head, I think we talked about last time, like, so the intersection of, bypass lane and,
Middlesex.
Middlesex, thank you, I was gonna say Mackenzie. That's got really big turn geometry. So that's the kind of thing that a car could take that turn probably at 35 miles an hour. So that's a place where a curb extension might be considered. There were some locations on 196 where some of these crosswalk gateway kind of treatments, kind of like giving you a visually protected crossing, like halfway across. Maybe there's some flex posts around you to kind of like create a little friction, a little more conspicuity. There are places where, we might not use flex posts, but we use mountable elements. Maybe bypass is one of those locations. Like if we have to look at the data and see if there's a significant amount of truck traffic there. Maybe we don't use flex posts, maybe we use something else. So yeah, we had a lot of ideas on Mallet Drive. We drove up because we knew that people were saying last time people were talking about speeding there. And there are things I can do. It's like, I guarantee you I can slow cars down. The question is, how much heat can we stand?
Another piece to our conversation is in some of those more rural areas where, we're seeing just let the center lines dissolve.
Yeah.
Don't repaint them. Maybe put fog lines and maybe there's center lines on like curves.
Yeah.
But a lot of center lines could go away and the illusion and the impact on speed will come down. And that's
Because they don't have a visual lane to stay in.
Right.
Yep.
It's like, this is not my turf. I have to share my turf. And then there was one person who was about to pull out in front of us. And I think Jim's comment immediately was, well, they think we're going to stay in our lane and we're not going to move.
There was a vehicle parked and I had to kind of go around it. And if it had been an unstriped road, it would have been obvious that we were just going to go around them and they would have waited their turn. But because there was a lane for them, they were like, well, should I go into the lane or not? And so, we did some research just to confirm what the warrants for center lines are. And, so if it's above 6,000 cars a day, you have to put a center line down it. If it's, below 4,000, 3,000, it becomes really sort of a judgment call. And there are, there's a number of studies that suggest that when you put the lane, the center line down, you actually increase speeds because it looks like a bigger, busier road than it is. So
there's less ambiguity in like which area is yours versus
creating the ambiguity actually slows people down.
Yes.
Correct. Well, which is like, Brian and I had a conversation about a facility that we're not discussing, but that's exactly what that facility does. Edge lane roads create a certain amount of ambiguity. And there's a traffic professor up at UMaine Orono, Per Gardner, who first introduced me to the ideas like, ambiguity calms traffic.
Yeah.
Because people wake up and they pay attention and like, what do I need to do here? And if they just have the lines and they can just go flying down, their lane, they're not thinking as much about other users. And so a little ambiguity actually, think of yourself when you're uncertain of a situation, fools tread in, but wise people kind of slow down and think about it and do, the prudent thing.
So I think that's part of like the lesson in why this scoring criteria is important, because sometimes the perception of what is unsafe is not the reality. And I can think of a number of locations in the past where traffic engineers come up with multi-million-dollar fix-it plans for places that have no crash data associated. But the perception is it's unsafe. And it's like, well, you think it's unsafe and therefore you proceed with caution. So we had a good ride. We have a number of things to process based on that ride and to keep going through the work. So I think we're gonna take up the month to do our work. We have a lot to do in order to be able to come back and have a productive next conversation.
Yeah, I'm sorry, can you clarify with that last point?
We need to take a month to get our work to a level where I think we can have a big, deep, meaningful conversation. So like all of the segments are in, all of the things that we observed today are in the spreadsheet can be available for you to be looking at and viewing and seeing in real time and contributing. You can send to us any recommendations. You'll have the deck to review, but we're gonna take this next month to really get a body of work done. Like, we've got a lot of stuff to work
So
through.
not a meeting in 2 weeks.
Right.
Well, I just wanted to, so you're thinking we're not gonna see you in 2 weeks?
No.
So we could potentially take that meeting to talk about all the stuff we just heard and then.
Actually might be helpful, yeah.
Okay, I think that would be helpful.
Yeah.
To give us a chance to sort of digest and talk through some of this stuff. That seems good.
And for us to look at the stuff you provided beforehand so that we're more educated.
Yeah, you guys could look at locations, say, wow, could we do this here?
We could go on a group ride.
Sarah's been, Sarah Nelson's been talking about that for a while, doing a group walk or ride or something. We totally should do that.
Totally should do that.
Yeah, we totally should do that.
I can.
Right now, what I say.
You wanna do that?
Yeah.
Come on, a Saturday morning?
Yeah.
What you need, bud?
Saturday morning.
Oh, no.
That's great. Okay, I think that's good. So,
Federal Cisco.
That's the, none of these startle things.
Oh, yeah.
It does.
so just in terms of, so we're gonna meet here in 2 weeks, or we don't know where we're gonna meet. Just don't tell us where we're gonna meet. And we can sort of process some of what we heard, and then we can provide you guys some feedback, and then we'll see you.
Holy,
On 4 weeks. I'm not sure how we what that date is, but.
Do you know what that date is?
So our regularly scheduled meeting, this is not our regularly scheduled meeting. So we've got the 11th of May as a regularly scheduled meeting. Our next regularly scheduled meeting is not until June 8th.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we wanna do we could do another, like, May 25th. That's Memorial Day. Is that Memorial Day?
Yeah, I can't do that.
We can't do Memorial Day.
Well, I personally can't do that today, but.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Is Topsham sending people to build Maine? Did you
It's the second
sponsor?
Tuesday, second Monday.
What is that?
June 2nd and 3rd.
June 2nd and 3rd.
I'm sorry, say it again.
Did you sponsor, are you sending, do you get to go to Build Maine? Does anybody from the committee get to go to Build Maine? Are you sponsoring this year? You've always historically sponsored, and you get to send as many people as you
Yeah,
want.
Topsham's in again.
Okay, great.
I don't know, but I don't-
So-
You see, aware of it.
Okay, so on the web, look up Build Maine, and the agenda, if it's not fully fleshed out yet, it will be in the coming weeks. But that's a really great place to go learn a bunch of exciting things on placemaking and
Kayak river tour.
there's all sorts of
Where-
things.
where is it?
There's a,
Scout
what is a
Eagle.
bike
Scout
say?
Eagle.
Bike that's bikes and say.
Is it gonna be in Skowhegan again?
Yes. Yeah.
So June 1st then would probably be out as a date for you guys, if Vanessa, you're gonna build Maine.
Yeah, that I would, yeah, I'm not available on the first.
Okay,
So
so we might wanna figure out a date.
your, cause May 28th.
Does it have to be a Monday?
2, 3.
It doesn't, we found that Mondays generally work with this group, when we try to change it, we always end up on a Monday.
What was on the 25th?
Memorial Day.
Memorial Day.
Fine.
Got it.
Are we trying to meet
2,
before the
3.
usual June 8th?
First.
I think that's the idea, is that we could sneak in another
No.
interim meeting.
So I will generally be available and make the meeting, but I'm gonna be in Colorado for a couple weeks.
Nice.
So I'll have to be virtual, but I will be there.
Okay, we can talk about it, maybe, we can talk about this at our next meeting. And then maybe throw out some possibilities to you guys. Okay, so, we have one more agenda item, Chief, we're gonna have to put you on the next agenda. Thanks, everybody. This was edifying, Jim, thank you, you're like, just that much smarter. Anybody have anything else before we close?
That painting on Main Street off, I will.
What?
That's the line.
Yeah, yeah,
That's what they, when they put the left hand turn. like-
I will send it out again.
The turn in.
yeah,
That's why it's been a long time.
yeah, okay.
Island that kind of.
The lines through it though, like I feel like it's more
They
visible
got
than it
more
used to
lines,
be.
they have to inside you.
That's
Explanation. Yeah, that's the first tip with the left hand
Or
turn.
link to, oh, because when you're searching your email, oh.
barely
Yeah, it's been going on for a while.
Link to like the handle. In the subject.
Yeah.
Lots of
Yeah.
keywords. Got it, okay, got it.
Yeah.
I can just say.
Yeah, okay, I hear you, oh yeah. Okay.
That slide shows you.
Every single day.
Thank you.
We all email them,
But I can send it out that.
they're not gonna be,
Is there any street lights on
that's.
I know it's in there.
Yeah.
We need to move to adjourn. Who's gonna move to adjourn?
Move to adjourn, is there a second?
Oh, I just, oh, sure, I did. Yeah, move to
Okay,
adjourn.
all in favor of going home?
Wait a second.
Thank you, everybody.